We welcome you to another live edition of the Sports Box, brought to you by our sponsor, Showcase Sports in Hamilton. Showcase Sports for the elite athlete. And by our friends over at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and check them out at www.crowdplayapp.com for details. Ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime.
Hey everybody, welcome to Cage My IQ. As always, I am your host, D-Bake. Today we will be recapping PFL Week 5, which was headlined by Rory MacDonald versus Gleison Tibau. This is the second round of matchups for the welterweights and the light heavyweights to determine who makes the playoffs in August in Highwood, Florida. So let's get started with the action right here. The first matchup that we had was a light heavyweight matchup, which saw Chris Camozzi earned 3 points in his matchup against Cezar Ferreira, who stayed put at 6 points. This is a really good matchup that took a turn for the worse for Cezar Ferreira in the second round. In the first round, it was all Cezar Ferreira. He was using his power, his wrestling, and it was just overwhelming Chris Camozzi, who is known for his kickboxing and just being a little bit dirty. But it seemed like after the first round, once Ferreira got that in his belt, he had a couple chances where he might have gotten the knockout. But he looked like he was tired out after the first round, and that's when Chris Camozzi took over. He started using a lot of leg kicks from his kickboxing background and then striking, and he was just putting on a clinic from there on out. If you look at the stats right here, you can see that Chris Camozzi had 130 strikes landed, 38 arm strikes landed, 6 leg strikes landed, 86 strikes landed on the ground, and no takedowns and no submissions, whereas Cezar Ferreira only had 67 strikes landed, 19 to the arm, 18 leg strikes, 30 ground strikes, and 1 of 3 takedowns with a submission attempt. But mostly all of what Ferreira did was on the in the first round, and then he kind of towed down dramatically in the second and third rounds, and that allowed Chris Camozzi to get started. And like I said, with his leg kicks and the striking, and then he pulled away after that and took rounds 2 and 3 to pick up 3 points in the PFL standings. And even though he didn't make the playoffs, he put a nice lasting impression on Cezar Ferreira, who clinched the spot in the playoff as of right now, and got the upset. So good job to Camozzi, showing up in rounds 2 and 3. In the next matchups that we have on here, it is a matchup in the light heavyweight again between Emiliano Sordi versus Dan Spohn, where they fought to a majority draw thanks to a point deduction in the first round on Sordi. Sordi moves to 4 points while Dan Spohn moves to 1 point, and Emiliano Sordi was able to squeak out a tie in the standings for 4th place with Corey Hendricks, who was able to get a 4 points earlier with the stoppage victory in round 4 of his matchup. But because Sordi had more fights to Hendricks 1, he advances to the playoffs with the tiebreaker. But in this matchup, it was basically all Emiliano Sordi up until the third round. He dominated the first round, had over 170 strikes, and at several times almost finished the fight in the first round, landing over 100 strikes just on the ground. And you thought the ref would have stopped the fight several times, but he didn't. But then he stopped the fight with a little over a minute left in the first round and gave a point deduction to Sordi because of several blows to the back of the head. Not on purpose. He was just trying to finish him. And Spohn was moving, but he gained that. And then there's a couple questionable calls where they both they both hit heads a couple times due to Spohn moving, but the ref didn't really call that. And in the end, the second round, it was Sordi again with the strike, and he slowed down to the third, and that's why it was a draw because Spohn was able to get going with the striking, and he was able to squeak out the third round from this and get the draw, which sucks for Sordi because he could have had more points and moved up to at least second or third in the standings, but he's at fourth place and he still makes the playoffs, so good for him. But looking at the stats, Sordi had 260 total strikes, 40 arm strikes landed, 13 leg strikes landed, 207 ground strikes landed, 0-3 takedowns, 1 submission attempt, and 0 knockdowns, whereas Dan Spohn had only 50 strikes landed, 31 arm strikes landed, 11 leg strikes landed, 8 ground strikes landed. He had 1 of 2 takedowns, 0 submission attempts, and 0 knockdowns. So as you can see here, Emiliano Sordi was able to dominate the fight, but that shot to head and the point deduction cost him the win in this matchup and forced it to be a tie. Moving on to the co-main event of the evening, we had a matchup between Ray Cooper the third, who defeated Nikolay Aleksakhin by unanimous decision to earn 0 points in the standings due to the fact that he had missed weight, so he was deducted -1 points, and he basically was just fighting to make sure that he stayed in the playoffs, and Nikolay Aleksakhin didn't jump him in the standings, in which that's exactly what happened in this welterweight matchup. The first round was basically even. Both guys were coming at each other and trying to wrestle, and it went both ways. Even in the striking, it went both ways. But the bouts changed in the second round when Ray Cooper was able to start to get Nikolay Aleksakhin on the ground. He controlled him on the ground for much of the time after the first round, and then he was able to limit Aleksakhin's striking because that's what Aleksakhin's known for, is the striking and his sambo. And he was able to do that for majority of the second and third round, which helped him out in the scheme of things. And then, all in all, he looked very strong. And one note to note, this was the first loss for Aleksakhin since 2016, 2017. So he's going back to the drawing board. He misses the playoffs. And then Ray Cooper finishes second or third in the standings. And stayed at 5 points. He was lucky that he didn't need to get any more points because of the weight cut. He's never going to make sure that he makes weight for the playoffs. But with his strong combination of wrestling and striking and limiting the opponents to the weaknesses, he's going to be the heavy favorite, I think, in the playoffs come August. But here's the stats that we have here for you today. Right here, we got Ray Cooper, who had 77 total strikes landed. 57 of them were arm strikes. 18 were leg strikes. He had 2 that were ground strikes that landed. He had 2 or 6 takedowns, 0 submission attempts, and 0 knockdowns. Whereas his opponent, Aleksakhin, had 59 total strikes, 35 arm strikes landed, 21 leg strikes landed, 3 ground strikes landed, 1 of 2 takedowns, 0 submission attempts, and 0 knockdowns. So as you can see, a lot of it was close, but because of the second and third rounds, Ray Cooper took this fight, and he's moving on to the playoffs now. So expect for a good show from him come August. The main event of the evening is next. It was a matchup between Gleison Tibau, who in the welterweight division, who defeated Rory MacDonald by split decision, which moved Gleison Tibau to 3 points and kept Rory MacDonald at 6 points. This is a fight that was very questionable with its result, as they gave Gleison Tibau the split decision, even though he got outstruck easily by Rory MacDonald. Rory MacDonald was the one pressing the fight. He was the one moving forward. He was getting him with combinations of speed, leg kicks, and takedowns. And every time Gleison Tibau would try to get something going, Rory MacDonald would just get him with his length and just kick him with leg kicks, hit him with strikes. And he just seemed like he was dominating the fight in all aspects. So and even though Gleison Tibau was showing heart and he was throwing power shots at him at all costs, keeping him at bay a little bit, it still didn't warrant him to get a split decision somehow from the judges, because as you see right here with the stats on here, you can see that Rory MacDonald had 81 total strikes, 48 arm strikes landed, 31 leg strikes landed, 2 ground strikes landed, 1 of 6 takedowns, 0 submissions, 0 knockdowns, whereas Gleison Tibau had only 32 strikes landed, 30 of them arm strikes, 2 leg strikes, 0 ground strikes landed, 0 takedowns, 0 submission attempts, and 0 knockdowns. So if you just look at all the stats, you'd be dumbfounded with the decision that the judges made, because in every aspect, Rory MacDonald dominated the fight. Even the FDR said that he won the fight, and the commentary crew said that he won the fight. But for some reason, the judges scored it Gleison Tibau with the win, which is very huge, because as it looks right now, it looks like Rory MacDonald could be fighting Ray Cooper III in the semifinals of the playoffs, when he should be first place fighting Emiliano, fighting the 4th place guy instead of second place. Instead of being second place fighting Ray Cooper III. That's a huge thing in this, because of everything that is going on. You wanted this fight to be in the finals, but because of a judge's mistake in this, where they should have ruled Rory MacDonald the victorious, and they ruled Gleison Tibau the victory. It is what it is. That's what they chose. Rory MacDonald has said that they need to look back at this and fix this. But if they do, that's good. If they don't, they don't. He's still in the playoffs, and the Red King is going to be coming with a fury, because he's going to be mad that the judges gave him a split decision loss. So look for him to go for broke in the playoffs and try to get stoppages this time, so the judges can't have a factor in his fights moving forward. And that will do it for the PFL 5 2021 recap by yours truly, D-Bake of Cage My IQ. As always, this is Cage My IQ, the best place for MMA content. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch at the handles to the left. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We have a whole bunch of content on there, from preview and recap videos to interviews, as well as we do the coverage for all 4 major MMA promotions in UFC, Bellator, PFL, and One Championship. So if you love MMA, come check us out at any of the handles to the left, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel and let everybody know about it so they can subscribe. And as always, we have 3 sponsors. 99 Jersey. Use promo code SportsBoxShow20 at checkout to receive 20% off your next purchase. We have Oddsjam. Go to the link in the bio so you never miss a bet again. Go to the link in the bio, sign up so you can find the best ways to make risk-free bets on sports, and to find the best odds, so that whenever you make a bet, you never lose and you always win. So make sure you sign up in the link in the bio and let them know that Cage My IQ sent you, And then lastly, High Tide Herbal. Use promo code CageMyIQ10 at checkout to receive 10% off your next purchase of High Tide Herbal attire. It is products that these owners you made with CBD oil to help recovery happen faster for your athletes and human beings. So once again, CageMyIQ10 at checkout to receive 10% off your next purchase at www.hightideherbal.com. That'll wrap things up for this recap. I'm your host, D-Bake, and join us next week for PFL 6 preview and recap. We will talk to you later. See ya.
Thank you for watching this episode of Cage My IQ on the Sports Box. Please remember to follow us on all of our social media outlets. On Facebook at Sportsbox Show, Twitter at Sportsbox Show, Instagram at The Sportsbox Show. Find us on YouTube and join Outside the Box, our Facebook sports discussion group. The Sports Box is brought to you by our sponsor, Showcase Sports in Hamilton. Showcase Sports for the elite athlete. And also our friends over at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and use promo code THEBOX at sign up for 10 free points. Thank you for joining us.